Hey, good morning and that. Yeah, it's Uncle Lou here. Yep, that's right. It's me, Uncle Lou, and I'm live for you on LouTube today. So thanks for watching. I really appreciate it also. And too, in addition to that as well, week 5 is in the books. Did the Your Season is Over video this morning per usual. And that can only mean one thing. It's time for the updated top 10. So without any further ado, here we go. The week 6, I think this will be now. Uncle Lou top 10 poll. Let's go. All right, you guys subscribe to this channel if there's a reason you're not already. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I post college football videos almost every single day of the year. A lot of times they're watchable. Give this video a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. It doesn't cost you anything or take you any time at all, but it's a great help to me. Hit the thumbs up button. A lot of you been asking for the who have they played? Lou, who have they played? A lot of you been asking for the who have they played shirts. I got some. If you scroll right below the video that you're watching now, you'll see it. Click on it. It'll take you to it. Get yourself a Who Have They Played shirt. Mine should be here Tuesday or Wednesday. I couldn't be more excited, to be honest. So anyway, without, well, maybe a little bit more ado. That's enough. Let's get on with this week's top 10 poll. All right, I'm going to do this the same way we do it every single time. I'll put last week's top 10 poll up on the screen as sort of a reference point in case you missed last week's video. You'll have an idea of where I was starting at heading in to do this week's video. This isn't the AP video poll. This isn't the coaches poll. This isn't a playoff poll. This isn't me trying to predict any playoff polls or AP polls. This is just my top 10 poll as of right now in college football. We're 4 or 5 weeks into the season, depending on whether or not your team has had a bye week yet. Some teams have played 4 games. Some have played 5. I think that's plenty of, I think there's plenty of data to go to go on for this season now without having really to rely at all on last year. People can say or claim whatever they want. You make a preseason poll, it's based at least in part on last season. There's really no other way to do it. Yes, you can base it on expectations, but expectations are in part based on last season. You can base it on which players a team has coming back, but those players played for that team last season if they're coming back. So that, in part, is based on last season. I think we've seen enough football, particularly from these top 10 teams now and some of the ones right outside the top 10 or whatever, that we can start to form some general not conclusions, but some general ideas of sort of where these teams are at this season. With that being said, there's some shakeups in today's top 10 poll, okay? And as usual, I'll do my best to describe my mindset as I go through each team here in the poll and tell you sort of why I feel like I have them ranked in that particular spot. Here's last week's poll so you know where we started. And let's get started. Per usual, we'll start with number 10 and work our way up to number 1. Number 10. First time in the poll this season, I think. I don't think they were in my preseason top 10. I think this will be their first time in the Uncle Lou poll this season. The Barn! Man, what are all the Auburn fans going to complain about this week? I don't know, because they've spent their last 3 weeks complaining that Uncle Lou didn't have the Barn ranked in his top 10 poll. The Barn is ranked this week. I was impressed with Auburn this past week. You know, people say, oh, you just hate Auburn. That's why you didn't have him in the top 10. You're a Georgia fan. That's why you didn't have him in the top 10. Whatever the million excuses and crybaby things you typed in the comment section about why I didn't have the Barn ranked in the top 10. The reality of the situation was the Barn didn't look like a top 10 team to me. This week they did. They went out and completely dominated and destroyed Mississippi State. Is Mississippi State an elite team? No. But when you play a team that's not elite, you should go out and dominate them, and that's what Auburn did. This game was 21-0 almost before it started. 9-10 minutes to go in the first quarter, the Barn was up 21-0, and it just got worse from there. They ended up winning, 56-23? Did I write this murder down that occurred? Yes, 56-23. Bo Nix looked good, throwing and running. Boobie Whitlow had some good runs. Auburn's defense played pretty good. We all know what Auburn's defense is. Their front four is absolutely insane, elite. I thought this was the best game Auburn has played all season, particularly on offense. And so this week, I have them ranked in the top 10. They're sitting at number 10. I know some Auburn fans are going to think that's still too low. That's fine. This is where I think they should be this week. They play another tough team, or a tough team this coming week on the road in Florida. Go out and dominate Florida. You're liable to move up in every poll, including the UNCLELOU poll. But here you are this week, Barner. You come in at number 10. Well, that's not fair. Number 9 in the poll, I have Penn State. I had Penn State in my poll last week, as you can see, and people told me I was crazy. And, well, people tell me I'm crazy all the time. And I may get some more of that this week. You're crazy. Penn State went out and beat Maryland 59-0 this week. Again, is Maryland a top 10 or 15 team? No. So when you play those teams, you better go out and dominate them. That's what Maryland did. That's what Penn State did. Went on 59-0. They have Purdue this week, and then they'll start to get into some of the tougher games in the Big Ten. And listen, people, a lot of this stuff is going to start to work itself out as some of these better teams start to play each other, right? Ohio State and Michigan are going to play. Ohio State and Penn State are going to play. Ohio State and Wisconsin are going to play. Alabama and LSU are going to play. Auburn is going to play Florida, Georgia, LSU, and Alabama. So a lot of this stuff will work itself out. But Penn State went out and did what they needed to do this past weekend against an inferior team, absolutely dominating them, 59-0. I don't know what else you could do. So listen, I had Penn State in my top 10 last week. Am I going to move them out after they beat somebody 59-0? No. So I have them at number 9 this week. Number 8, Notre Dame. Notre Dame started off slow this past week against Virginia. That was sort of to be expected, I think. I talked about it all last week. In any video I did last week where I talked about Notre Dame, I said, Notre Dame could come out with a hangover in this game. In fact, I took Virginia and the points in that game. I said, I think Notre Dame will win. Hell, I've been telling y'all, Notre Dame's going 11-1. I don't think they're going to lose a game other than Georgia. So I think they're going 11-1 and making the New Year's Six Bowl. So obviously I thought they were going to beat Virginia, but I thought it would be a close game, and it was in the first half. Virginia scored first, went up 7-0. Notre Dame tied it up. Virginia took a lead into halftime. I think it was 17-14 or somewhere in that neighborhood. Anyway, Notre Dame came out, completely dominated the second half, ended up winning the game 35-20 over Virginia. And Virginia, a good team. Not really good, not great, not top 10, right? But they were undefeated. They have an exciting player at quarterback who can hurt you. They have a really good defense. Is Virginia a great win? No, but it's a ranked win, right? So I don't think Notre Dame did anything to hurt itself by beating Virginia at home 35-20 the week after their toughest game of the season, which ended up being a really close loss on the road to Georgia. I've got Notre Dame 8 in this poll. Who do they play this coming up week? Bowling Green. Is that right? Jesus. Please tell me how Notre Dame schedules nothing but hard teams. Anyway, they're number 8. I really 7-1 is really, really hard. There are arguments you can make for almost every single team ranked 1-7 of why that team should be 1 or why they should be 7 or worse. You got to come down somewhere, right? Again, a lot of this stuff is going to work itself out. Try not to get yourself too twisted up into knots here when I start to reveal this top 7, okay? Even though I already know some of you are going to be ecstatic. Some of you are going to be jumping for joy. Others of you are going to be looking for a safe room and a security blanket when I start to reveal this top 7 here. I'll do my best to try to say why I have teams where I do. Number 7, I have LSU. Ranking these last 7 teams, I put a lot of stock into what I have seen these teams do this year, what they have looked like to me this year when I've watched them, okay? LSU has looked like a really good team. Listen, if you're in the top 7, you're an elite team this year, period, okay? If you're in the top 7, you're an elite team with a really good shot to make the college football playoff. There is no sense in getting upset with me because I have LSU ranked 7. Why? Well, because you're going to play Auburn. You're going to play Alabama. And then, if you make it through that, you'll play Georgia in the SEC championship game. So, if you deserve to be ranked higher than 7, you will be ranked higher than 7 eventually. So, don't worry about it. LSU is an elite team. I wrote down some numbers here to try to help to justify some of the decisions that I made when ranking these top 7 teams. LSU's got the 3rd ranked total offense, but 32nd in defense. They got to tighten that up. I have them at 7. Again, what'd they do this week? Were they off? Yeah, they were off. They play Utah State next week. Not much LSU can do to impress me next week against Utah. I expect LSU to go out and completely dominate that game and win something. You know, I expect them to score somewhere in the 40s, 50s, or 60s, and I expect them to give up less than 20 points. I think that's what you should do against Utah State if you're the 7th ranked team in my poll and you think you should be higher, 1, 2, or 3, even in some cases I hear from LSU fans. But I've got LSU, the Corn Dogs, coming in at number 7. Number 6, I almost can't read some of these next 2 or 3 teams because I crossed them out so many times and rewrote them and changed my mind and wrote another team in. Number 6, I have Wisconsin. Now, I'm real high on Wisconsin, okay? I think they've got one of the best running games in America, and they've got one of the best defenses in America, and you're going to win a lot of games that way. They're also much better this year at the quarterback position than what they have been in the recent past. Cone is a huge upgrade over Hornibrook, period. Don't try to tell me he's not, okay? I don't care what stat you show me. Again, watch some of these games. Wisconsin's offense is light years ahead this year of where it was last year or the year before under Hornibrook. It just is. They are an elite, dominating team, and they can punish you up front on both lines of scrimmage. Jonathan Taylor's a home run hitter that can also carry the ball 20 or 25 times a game. That's rare. Usually you get one or the other. You get a bruiser, right? A guy you can run into the line of scrimmage 20 times a game, and you know he's going to get you 3, 4, 5 yards and some first downs. Jonathan Taylor can do that. He can also take it 80 yards to the house and outrun everybody on the field. He's absolutely he's one of the best players in America, not just running backs. One of the best players. What did they do this past week? Was Northwestern 24-15. Didn't look great. Again, sort of the Notre Dame theory here. They came off a big emotional win against Michigan. Now, they ended up blowing Michigan out, and we know now Michigan not what they were cracked up to be yet again for the umpteenth year in a row. But that was a big emotional game heading into that game for Wisconsin, right? Everyone was watching that game. It was a big game. They blew them out. They come out this week a little slow. They pull away in the end, do enough to get a big win on the road here at Northwestern, 24-15. They're still undefeated. Where does Wisconsin rank in some of these statistics here? Well, defense, number 1 total defense. Offense, 44. Now, they've scored a ton of points. A ton. They have scored, it's ridiculous how many points they've scored, but in terms of total offense, 44. Okay? Again, better than where they've been in years past. Watch them play, okay? So, Wisconsin comes in at, what is that, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. All right, number 5, Oklahoma. I said I was going to leave. I had Oklahoma at 6 the last few weeks. I said I don't care what they do. They're staying there until their total defense gets into the top 50s. And guess what? Oklahoma's defense has cracked the top 50. So salute to Alex Grinch and the Oklahoma defense and you Oklahoma fans who have had to endure just one of the worst defenses in the Power 5 for what seems like forever, but particularly the last couple of years. The defense is a lot better this year than it was last year. How much better, I think, is yet to be determined. Obviously, you have some of your tougher games upcoming still. We'll see how that defense holds up over the course of the season. There's also the possibility that the defense continues to improve over the course of the season, with this being Grinch's first year running things on that side of the ball. So we'll see. But I'll give you Oklahoma's numbers here. And again, total offense, number 1. No one's surprised. Defense, though, 47. Last year, they were about 120, okay? So this is a huge improvement on that side of the ball for Oklahoma. They cracked the top 50. I rewarded them like I said I would. I moved them up from 6. Now they're sitting at number 5 in this week's Uncle Lou poll. What did they do this week? They absolutely destroyed Texas Tech 55-16. I know this isn't an apples-to-apples comparison, but since we're talking about the Oklahoma defense being better this year than it was last year, Oklahoma beat Texas Tech. What was this score? They gave up 46 points to Texas Tech last year. This year they gave up 16. Again, I know that's not an apples-to-apples comparison. I get that. Texas Tech, for all we know, is not the offensive team this year that they were last year, but still, that's a difference of, 30 points over the course of last year to this year? I think it's time to start admitting that Oklahoma's defense is at least better than it has been the last couple of years. It's not the same abject failure and disaster we've seen the last couple of years. Is it elite? Are they going to finish with a top 10 defense or even top 20? No. But it's miles ahead of what we're used to. Oklahoma's at number 5. All right, and it's time for the top 4 now, and I might turn off the comments on this video. Coming in at number 4, the Taters. I have Clemson at number 4. Listen, I gave Clemson the benefit of the doubt. They were by far the best team in college football last year, and it was not close. They dominated everybody they played in the regular season, with the exception of a couple of close games that they had, Texas A&M and Syracuse. They dominated the ACC title game. They dominated Notre Dame in round 1 of the playoffs, and they gave Alabama and Nick Saban the worst loss they've ever had, 44-16, to win the national title, won by 4 touchdowns over Nick Saban's Alabama team. So for good reason, I didn't even have to think much about it. I put Clemson as at number 1 in my preseason poll, and I've pretty much just left them there all year without thinking that much about it. But like I said towards the beginning of this video, we're through week 5 now. We've seen all these teams play 4 or 5 games, and the reality of the situation is, when it comes to Clemson, right now, as of today, they are not the team we saw last year. They just aren't. Their defense, although better than I thought it would be, having lost all that talent to the NFL, their defense is not on the level that it was last year, and their offense is miles behind. What's the issue? I don't know, because you got Trevor Lawrence back with a year under his belt. You got NFL wide receivers in Justin Ross and T. Higgins, and you just get Amari Rodgers back from injury, another guy that'll be playing on Sundays. You have a Heisman Cannon runner back in Travis Etienne. Solid offensive line. I'll say this. It's very rare to see a team win back-to-back national titles, and there must be a reason. Whether it's too much celebrating in the offseason, is it harder to sort of keep your nose to the grindstone all offseason long after you've just won a natty than it is when you're chasing that first one? And I know Clemson won 1 in 16, but for the majority of the players on last year's Clemson team, that was their first one. So there's a reason you don't see a lot of back-to-back national title winners. It's very hard to repeat as national champs. You get every team's best shot that following year, right? And the motivation factor. I don't know if that's the case with Clemson or not. I have no idea. All I know is I have watched most of the Clemson games this year, and a lot of all of the Clemson games this year. They're not the same team. They definitely have not looked like the best team in America. They haven't had really any game where they've came out and just completely dominated an opponent, no matter who it was. Maybe Texas A&M, you could say, is the closest they came, and would they win that 24-10 or something like that? I know Texas A&M got a late touchdown there, but we're starting to see here Texas A&M's not a very good team. Okay. And then I haven't even mentioned what happened this past weekend with North Carolina. Now, it was a road game. Mac Brown's a good coach. But the reality is that same North Carolina team barely beat Miami, a team that we know is terrible. Okay, Miami just got done scoring 17 points against Central Michigan. North Carolina last week lost to App State. These are not great teams here. Okay, this is a game. Yes, it was on the road. The talent differential between Clemson and North Carolina is miles and miles and miles. You should have won this game more comfortably. Clemson knows that. And listen, if Clemson's not going to lose a game, it would be a huge shock. Everyone will agree. It'll be a huge shock if Clemson wins a game before the playoffs, right? You don't have to worry where you're at in this playoff poll. You really don't. It's going to be. I can't imagine anything happening that would cause me to move Clemson further down than number 4. So you can only go up from here, really, in my poll, unless you lose a game. And, of course, all bets are off then. But you're going to make the playoffs in all likelihood. You'll be double-digit favorites in the rest of your games this season. You'll be a double-digit favorite in the ACC championship game, and you're likely going to enter the playoffs at 13-0. On top of that, the possibility exists for you to lose a game in the regular season, win the ACC title game, and still get into playoffs. There's obviously no guarantee if that happens, but most people seem to think Clemson would still get in. You're not likely to ever go any lower than 4. So I know some of you are going to be mad or pissed off about this or whatever it is, but just be real. I mean, the 3 teams that are ahead of you, and it's no surprise who they are at this point in the poll, the 3 teams ahead of you, in my opinion, having watched all of these teams play a lot of football this year, all 3 of these teams have looked better over the course of the season than Clemson has. But I have Clemson this week falling to number 4. Number 3. Number 3. The Gumps. I have Alabama at number 3. Their defense is alarming. It's concerning. Now, they're going to say the offense. But here's the thing. You had this offense last year, okay? We saw all this last year on offense from Alabama. We saw Tua light up everybody he played for 300 and 400 yards in the first half and then sit on the bench in the second half so Jalen Hurts could come in, all right? That's nothing new. Not that we're not impressed, but we expected that. We saw that coming. What we didn't expect was Alabama. I don't want to say that Alabama is struggling to run the ball, but they're not running the ball like we're used to seeing Alabama do, right? I mean, Alabama just used to dominate in every phase of the game, and that was one of the reasons they stayed ranked number 1, it seemed like, all season for 8-9 years in a row. That's not the case this year. Najee Harris is not as good of a running back as what you're used to having, I don't think. You don't have the depth at running back that you're used to having. You had an injury in the preseason that hurt you there. Defensively, you're starting a whole bunch of freshmen. Now, that could be good news because they're all highly recruited and highly rated freshmen. They're only going to get better as the season goes along. I mean, by the time you guys play LSU, those guys will basically be veterans at that point. But you've had some injuries on defense. You've given up some yards to some suspect teams, South Carolina, Ole Miss. Again, it's just not the Bama defense that we're used to seeing. I am not here to try to convince anybody that Alabama's defense is bad, and I hope it's not coming off this. Nothing about Alabama's team is bad. None of these teams in the top 10 really are bad, right? But we're splitting hairs here between these top 5 or 6 teams, in my opinion. Alabama's not the dominant defensive team that it was in years past under Nick Saban. It's just not, particularly against the pass, in my opinion, and running up the middle, in my opinion. That's not to say Bama can't get it fixed. That's not to say Bama can't beat LSU in a few weeks. That's not to say Bama can't win the SEC, make the playoff, and make another title run. That's not what I'm saying. What I've seen so far this year, they have looked better than Clemson overall, but they have not looked as good overall as the 2 teams I have ranked ahead of them. And that's why I moved Bama to 3rd in this week's UNCLELOU poll. Number 2, I have Georgia. They have the best win of anybody in the top 10. Period. They're the only team in the top 10 with a win over a team in the top 10. That's it. They beat Notre Dame, who's still in the top 10. Now, LSU has beat Texas, but Texas not in the top 10. So you're splitting hairs there too, though. Again, it's not a shot at LSU. LSU's a great team and great win at over Texas. Georgia beat Notre Dame. The other 3 teams we played, Vandy, they're a terrible team. We beat them 30-6. Murray State and Arkansas State, we beat them 50s and 60s to 0 or whatever it was, 14. I mean, we completely dominated them. So, when I look at what these teams have done all year long, not any one game, not their best game, not their worst game, but just the total body of work through the first month of football, 4 or 5 games, depending on if you had a bye week or not, I think Georgia has looked better over the course of the season than both Alabama and Clemson. And, of course, that leaves the number 1 team, which in my mind, having watched, again, I've watched every team in this top 10 I have watched play multiple games this year. Ohio State has looked like the best team in America every single week. Every week. Where's the weakness on Ohio State? And I can't wait for somebody to tell me I'm just an Ohio State fan. You must have just rolled out from under a rock right before you clicked on this video if you think that. I have just about made a living clowning Ohio State on this channel over the last couple of years. I have not seen a better team week in and week out than Ohio State. They are absolutely dominating every single team they play. And I hear your keyboard typing now with the who have they played. Listen, Georgia fan, Indiana has the 36th ranked defense in America. Indiana. Okay? Ohio State put 51 on them. Notre Dame has the 60th ranked defense in America. We scored 23. Anybody that has watched Georgia and Ohio State play multiple games this year, anybody, and thinks that Georgia has a better offense right now than Ohio State is either football ignorant, they're trolling, or they're ate up with the whole Justin Fields thing and they can't accept reality. Ohio State's offense has been ridiculous through the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season. I'm not trying to tell you that Indiana or Nebraska or Miami of Ohio or Cincinnati are elite teams. That's who they've beaten. That's not what I'm trying to tell you. I am trying to tell you that Vandy, Murray State, and Arkansas State are not elite teams either. Okay? And we went out and we dominated them. That's all you can do. When you play these teams that aren't on your level, the best you can do is go out and dominate them. Ohio State has dominated every single team they played. They went into Lincoln, Nebraska yesterday and absolutely embarrassed them. Just embarrassed them. Ohio State's problem the last couple of years has not been offense, it's been defense. Ohio State's defense is ridiculous this year. This is not the same Ohio State defense we saw the last couple of years that gave up 55 to Iowa and 155 to Purdue. Watch Ohio State play defense. The best player in America, regardless of position, is probably Chase Young. What is he? Defensive end or outside linebacker? Whatever he is for Ohio State. The guy is absolutely insane. They've got NFL cornerbacks. They've got NFL wide receivers. J.K. Dobbins can bust one for 80 yards every time he touches the ball. And and Justin Fields is just, it's just time to accept reality about Justin Fields. Justin Fields is who a lot of people told us he was. An absolutely elite, game-changing, play-making, Heisman contending quarterback. Period. End of story. There is no but this. There is no but he played this team. But he played that team. But he couldn't beat out Jake Fromm. All of those things are excuses that just let me know you don't know what you're talking about, okay? Fields never should have came to Georgia to try to run that offense. He needed to be in a spread. That's what he's built and designed to do. And he's absolutely killing it at Ohio State, period. 23 touchdowns. Jake Fromm's never had more than 30 in a year. And this isn't a bash Jake Fromm thing. I'm happy with Jake Fromm. Jake Fromm's my guy. Kirby needs to loosen up and let him sling the ball around some, and we need to see that he can do that. So this isn't a I wish we had Justin Fields thing. But you've got to watch him play. Ohio State's a very dangerous team. Very dangerous. Ohio State looks like Oklahoma on offense. But here's the problem. Not if you're Ohio State, but if you're anybody else. Total defense. I'm going to do this for these top 3 or 4 teams, okay? Let's start with Clemson. I had them at 4, okay? Total defense, Clemson is number 8. Bama, 38. Georgia, 9. Ohio State, total defense, 2. Total offense, Clemson, 21st. Bama, 4. Georgia, 15. Ohio State, 8. Ohio State's the only team in the top 10 in both offense and defense. 2 in defense, 8 in offense. Georgia's the only team that comes close. They're in the top 15 in both. Bama has a 4th-ranked offense, but the 38th defense, and Clemson has the 8th defense and the 21st offense. Total defense don't matter. It's points that matter. Let's look at points. Clemson scoring offense, 24. Scoring defense, 9. So top 25 in both. Bama scoring offense, 4. Scoring defense, 13. So a big improvement. So Bama's giving up a lot of yards, but a little stingy with the points. Georgia, total offense, 11. Total defense, 6. Ohio State, No, I'm sorry, scoring. This is scoring, not total. So UGA scoring offense 11, scoring defense 6. Ohio State scoring offense 3rd, scoring defense 4th. They're in the top 5 in both scoring offense and scoring defense. They've blown out everybody they've played. Does that mean they're guaranteed to go undefeated? No, they've got some tough games coming up. They got to play Wisconsin here in a few weeks. They still play Michigan. They play Penn State. Michigan State's got a really good defense. So they've got some tough games coming up. This, to me, though, this does not look like the Ohio State team that is going to lose to one of those not good teams like we saw the last couple of years where their defense let them down. I cannot see that happening. If Ohio State drops a game this year, it's going to take a good team to beat Ohio State this year. No one's going to get lucky and catch that defense sleeping. They're legit. So, anyway, that's how I have it broke down this week. They'll start to change a lot during the week now because you got a lot of these teams starting to play each other. And like I said, we've got enough info now to go off information from this season. Throw the preseason polls away. This is probably when the poll should actually start, is about this time of the season. You probably should do away with preseason polls. But anyway, number 10, Barn. Number 9, Penn State. 8, Notre Dame. 7, LSU. 6, Wisconsin. 5, Oklahoma. 4, Clemson. 3, Bama. 2, Georgia. 1, Ohio State. Don't break your keyboard.